Well, it's time to have a look through the newspapers this morning with Michael Booker, the Deputy Editor of the Express, and the religious commentator Vicky Beeching. Morning once again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Being bright and perky this morning, which is what we like.
It's my middle name.
It should be. Vicky, to the Independent inside pages, looking at the pressure which is now on Eric Joyce over this latest alleged incident in the House of Commons.
Yes, so Eric Joyce, MP for Falkirk, has been arrested again, and he was in a bit of a drunken brawl in a bar in Westminster, and there's a lot of pressure now from his constituents in Falkirk to possibly step aside. It's been interesting to see how the story's been handled. It's being used a bit as people taking a pop at Westminster's drinking culture. Apparently there's over 30 places where you can buy alcohol, and people are just questioning, you know, what's going on there. Is that an excessive amount of places to buy alcohol? But from what I know of being around there, there's actually a lot of really hard-working people who just want to be able to socialise with others in the same field. So I don't think we should let
The thing is, it's only
let him
excessive
really.
if you drink to excess. You know, if it's
exactly.
all right having the facilities there. It's just if you abuse them, and certain people obviously do abuse them. But people abuse pubs up and down the country, so I don't think we should be shutting down all the pubs in Westminster.
Yeah.
However, I think it also throws up the idea of the power of recall to an MP. This is the second time that he's got in this sort of situation. He doesn't look a particularly happy or well bloke at the moment, to be honest. So I think more for his sake is to stop being an MP and get his life together.
Well, he has said he's not going to stand at the next election. He'd already made that announcement.
There's talk in some of the papers of changing the rules now, so you can only recall or get rid of an MP if they've got a prison sentence of 12 months or more. And there's talk now of changing that just in the light of this sort of thing, which you can understand.
A lot of his constituents are saying that they'd actually like him to go a lot sooner. So it raises the question of what sort of power the constituents have as to getting rid of an MP.
It's actually
that they
quite
just
difficult,
don't want.
isn't it? Once you've actually elected somebody, you can't really just get rid of them, like you say, unless there's a 12-month prison sentence.
No, you do sort of enter a contract, if you like, don't you, in that sense. Anyway, it's clearly
I think it'd be best for his sake, rather look of him. To be honest. He just doesn't look a very happy fella.
He has admitted, a few months ago, he admitted having some alcohol issues, didn't he? Which is very sad in itself. We know that's always a sad situation. Let's move to the Times, sticking with the world of politics, Michael, and looking at what we're going to see with Leveson. I'll try and pull it up a little bit on that one, because it's an extraordinary position that the Prime Minister has taken in a sense ahead of the vote on Monday.
Well, it seems he just wants to bring it to a head and get it all over and done with. He's sick of it hanging around and being a bit of a cloud over him. And in the Times, it's talking about there's 70 Tories previously suggested that they're going to vote against him. They're going to try and talk them round over the weekend and get them voting for the Tories and their royal charter versus the Lib Dem and the Labour royal charter. There's talk of this statutory stuff, but MPs are already involved in the press now, and this is the start of it. So I think the best for everyone is just to get it over and done with on Monday and see where we stand there.
It's as if, how much attention should we be paying to hacked off in all of this? And it's how legitimate do you see the voices of people like Hugh Grant in all of this? I mean, I know it's slightly different when you look at the McCanns and what have you. But there's still people like Hugh Grant who are very, very big voices in all of this. Should we be giving them much attention?
They've really turned up the pressure, haven't they? I was looking at some of the things
they've run
producing.
as they say, they've run a very slick campaign. They've built it all on public outrage. They've done it in the style of a tabloid newspaper in that way. And, and they've done very well with it.
Well, it's going to be an interesting vote on Monday. There's no doubt about that. It could be the Prime Minister being defeated on this issue. We shall wait and see. We'll have live coverage, of course, here on Sky News. More coming up for you in just a moment, including how Wills and Kate take their Scrabble very seriously. And the secret to a happy marriage is a good vacuum cleaner, apparently. So we're looking at the papers this morning with Michael and with Vicky to the Independent. Vicky, looking at the Pope. Interesting always to see in these situations, not that we've experienced many in our lifetime, but to see a Pope before they were Pope in these sort of situations.
It's been an amazing couple of weeks, hasn't it? Following it all, I mean, it has for me. I'm a kind of religion geek, but I really, really like Pope Francis. I think he has really struck a great chord with most people because of his passion for the poor, and this piece explores the different places he used to go to in the slums and people there in extreme poverty who really do know him by name. And
they sort of called him Padre Jorge, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I mean, literally like Papa. And actually my favourite part of the whole thing is at the bottom where he's talking about his inauguration, which is happening on Tuesday, and he's saying to the people of Argentina, don't spend money to come and see me at my inauguration, rather save that money and give it to the poor. And I just think that's a really lovely touch. I think it bodes well for the Catholic Church, and I think it's a great start for him.
He does seem to be a man of the people. It was reported that when the cardinals went back to the Vatican on the bus and he was supposed to go in his special papal vehicle, he opted not to do that, and he said, oh, I'll just go with the guys.
Isn't it brilliant?
And they were just
Brilliant.
done.
I think that's what we need, a sense that religious figures are actually just like us, normal people who we can relate to and trust, especially in the Catholic Church at the moment. People you can trust, I think, is really tantamount.
But that's one of the difficult things, isn't it, about the Catholic Church more than any other Christian denomination. It has these incredible traditions and sense of grandeur about it that in the past the Pope has never been a particularly approachable figure. It's never seemed to be a humble position.
No, not in the same way, has he?
I don't know, the one, Pope John Paul, I always thought that he always seemed, being brought up in the Catholic Church and the Catholic schools, he always seemed to be an approachable. I think it was after that it seemed to have taken the darker turn, and that's when a lot more of the stories came out. But I thought Pope John Paul I was seen as an approachable and
he did
and
have quite a warm
Catholic
sense to him, didn't he? And I think
Yeah.
people did say that actually when they saw Francis coming onto the balcony. The fact that the first thing he did was smile. I think that was, it did remind me of John Paul.
Yeah.
Vicky, where do you stand on politics and religion and do the two mix? Because we know in the past he's referred to the Falklands as the Malvinas and
Yes, it's tricky.
been quite sort of partisan in that respect.
I think it's interesting that David Cameron's already spoken out against that. I liked what he said, that the Falklands had already sent up their own white smoke in the referendum about what they wanted, but I think religion and politics really are the same thing because it's actually about creating a better society. So I don't really think the two should be separate. I think if you are religious, that should influence the way you think society should work, and hopefully you want things that are best for society. So I think he's got a fair point to speak out.
The thing with being Bishop of Buenos Aires or whatever it was as well, if he's not going to say that, he's not going to be Bishop of Buenos Aires very long, is he? You know, if he's got a military junta knocking around, he has to do those sort of things.
He'll have to change his tack now.
Oh well,
he's Pope.
I think he'll probably become slightly more diplomatic on the Falkland Islands.
He'll have to, won't he? Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he takes the church forward actually in the coming months and years. Let's move to the Sun, Michael. This lady here.
Oh yes,
who's been sleepwalking.
Yes, 24 hours she was missing. Apparently 1 in 25 of us will sleepwalk at some point in our lives, which is quite a stat. But this is Joy Grigg. She's 50. She was missing for 24 hours until she was discovered unconscious in a hedge. It was the second time she'd sleepwalked out of her family's farm this year. In January, she was found missing 2 miles away. She vanished in the early hours of Wednesday after clambering out of a kitchen window of her home in Cornwall, and she was found by a member of the public at 12:30 a.m. and this was just minutes before they were going to call off the rescue search for her as well. So if she'd slept there overnight, it could have been far worse. She is stable in hospital at the moment, but it just goes to show, you know, we think we know all about the human body, but we really don't, you know, for these things to start happening. And for it to only have started this year for her, I don't know, what's
triggered that off.
Yeah, you don't wonder what's triggered it, but yeah.
It's very worrying though, and quite dangerous.
It really is, yeah. You just sort of wonder what you're doing when you're asleep.
The body can actually get you out of a kitchen window asleep and walk you for a couple of miles. It is amazing.
Firstly, I do a little bit, or used to do a little bit of sleepwalking. I'd go to bed in one room and wake up in another, sort of thing, and that freaks me out.
You sure you're awake now?
Well, I'm not. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. No. I tell you what, I'd be rubbish at doing this morning because I'm a bit jiggered. So I couldn't have a game of Scrabble. But apparently, the young royals like a bit of Scrabble.
This is a really heartwarming story. It's basically Kate and Will's giving a little insight into what it's like when they hang out, and apparently the quote is that they very rarely actually finish a game of Scrabble because one or other of them slams the board down and goes off in a huff. So they're very competitive.
Really?
And I like this story because I think recently there's been some insinuations that Kate is without personality, you know, that she's really just
the plastic princess.
Yeah, the plastic princess. And I think it's interesting to actually get a little bit of an insight into the kind of personality of their marriage. Clearly they are two people who are both very intelligent, very competitive, and I like that insight into the kind of funny side of life with them.
Thing is, when I didn't have kids, I never played Scrabble with my missus. We found other things to do. Socialising, you know, the cinema.
Anyway, moving swiftly on, I think we're going to leave it there. Thankfully, you're going to be back in an hour. We should look at. Oh, I know you want to talk about the S4, don't you?
Yes.
Which should be quite interesting. We'll get your views on that. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Swiftly on, dear me. Charlie, what have you got for us?
Have a look at the Times this hour. England seek discipline to slam the door shut on Wales. This, of course, ahead of this afternoon's Six Nations decider. The prospect of a close, cagey game under the Millennium Stadium roof can play to the strength of the England team, reckon the Times. And that all gets underway at 5 this afternoon. Should be fascinating.
Lovely stuff, Charlie. Thank you. Weather time for you now. Here's Naz.